Kennedy Ryan does no wrong in my eyes. It was given real spice. The book is literally named after her, and I forgot her name because that's how much I loved it. I'm not gonna be your little secret. I wanna love you out loud. Met him in a club. Let's go back to the crib and do what we do and part ways. Hey chapter bestie, what's up and welcome back to another video. This video is gonna be super duper long because I read 15 books this month. 15 books. That was 10 romances, 3 suspenses, 1 historical fiction, 1 literary fiction, for a total of 4,861 pages. That is the most pages I read in a single month this year, the most books that I read in a single month this year. 5 of them were paperbacks because you know your girl is a Kindle girly. So I'm proud of myself. Let's give me a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the other 10 were obviously on Kindle Unlimited. We had a good time reading this month. I started out November reading bangers. Obviously, some of them, as the month goes on, you're inclined to fall on a book that you don't like so much, and that's what happened to me. So let's get into everything so I can tell you all my little book tea. The first book that I read was Before We Were Yours. I'm not going to dig too much into this because I did a whole video on it because that's how much I loved it. So good. The main thing that I loved about it was told in 2 time periods, Memphis 1939 and then present day in Aiken, South Carolina. And so it follows 12-year-old Real Falls, 4 of her younger siblings, basically taken from her family, and she's trying to keep them together in this Tennessee Children's Society home, which they suffered abuse and all different types of just terrible things, which I didn't know when I picked this up that this was a real thing. Shanty boats, the Tennessee Children's Society, Georgia 10, all of that is so real. And then present day, it follows Avery Stafford, and Avery is kind of obviously linked to what's happening in the past. I love the way everything ties together in this super good 5 stars. Check out the video for this that's linked in the description. The second book that I read was from one of my favorite authors, Mia Sheridan. It was More Than Words, and it follows Jessica and Callan. And so Jessica and Callan kind of fall in love when they're like 10 or 11 years old, I want to say. And Callan just ups and disappears. What we come to find out is Callan was suffering with a lot of negative things, abuse in his household, and he has a major secret that only one other person knows, and he ends up telling Jessica later in the book. But Jessica, she has her share of mental abuse and not seeing a strong 2-parent household, so they're kind of going through different things. And later on in life, about 10 plus years later, they link up and see each other for the first time in, I think it was Paris, somewhere in France. That doesn't really matter, but they link back up across the country. And when love meets destiny, that's part of this series. It makes perfect sense. They were destined to be together. So they kind of have like a one night stand kiss. She knows who he is, but he doesn't know that it's her. And so they kind of fall back in love with each other, share some secrets, share some hurts that they went through, and beautiful story. I did rate it 5 stars. I'm a huge Mia Sheridan fan. This was part of the same series as Archer's Voice. So if you like Archer's Voice, you'll probably like this one too. The third book that I read was Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I think this is my 3rd book of Colleen Hoover's. I rated it 5 stars because it has 2 of my favorite genres mixed in it of romance and suspense. And so it follows Sloane, and she is dating Asa Jackson, who is a drug dealer. They're in college, and an undercover DEA agent named Carter is tasked to bust Asa. What ends up happening is the DEA agent starts falling for Sloane and vice versa. And I absolutely ate this book up. I love when suspense mixes with romance, like The 5-Year Lie. Love that book too. Highly recommend this if those are your 2 favorite genres. I know Colleen Hoover gets a little slack, but this is really good to me. So don't judge me if you didn't like this, but go read it. I highly recommend you read this. Love You Always by Lauren Lacey was a story of redemption. 5-star book to me. It was amazing. It touched on infertility, it touched on adoption, it touched on anxiety and depression because the male main character Jackson suffered from anxiety and depression. And then it touched on having the hero complex, so what it looks like to always try to save somebody else instead of saving yourself. And I think that that's not talked about enough, of how you can't pour into somebody if you're not pouring into yourself. And that's what Parker did in this book, and she found herself in a world of hurt because of it. But like I said, it's a love story of second chances. It's a love story of redemption. It's a story of friendship, because the friends in this book were there through thick and thin for one another. Just an amazing love story, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. The next book that I read was Somebody's Wife by Robbie Renee. And when I tell you the spice was spicing in this book, the spice, it was giving real spice. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So it follows Gemma and Zeke, and Gemma ends up in a situation at 20 years old, and she ends up getting married. And 20 years later, it follows her as a 40-year-old woman kind of dealing with infidelity from her husband. She's kind of accepting it, and just because of image. She is not a professor, but she's in Dean of Affairs at a university. So she ends up interviewing this man, Zeke, that is trying to get a job at the school. And Zeke ends up falling hard for her. You want to talk about book boyfriend? You want to talk about somebody that loves you? Zeke loved this woman, and Gemma got on my everlasting nerve. She was so annoying because I didn't like the way that she kind of led Zeke on, and she kind of just, I don't know, she got on my nerves. But it was still a really good book. I still rated it 4 stars, I believe, on Goodreads. So excellent read. It tells a story about a woman deciding to basically choose herself because she's always been somebody's mother, she's always been somebody's daughter, she's always been somebody's wife, and so she's trying to choose herself in this. And I empathize with her, even though she was annoying, really annoying. But I empathize with her because I think as women, we all go through this, where we're just trying to make sure that we're being authentic to ourselves and not just being somebody's wife, pun intended. So because I was reading a bunch of heavy books, I ended up going with One Week in Paradise Next by Anise Starr. I rated it 4 stars because it was kind of a cute read, summer paradise read. It ends up with Bailey and Cash, and it's told from Bailey's perspective, so we never hear Cash's perspective, which I hate because, sorry about that. It's told from Bailey's perspective, not Cash's perspective, which I absolutely, I don't want to say I hate it, but I wish that I love dual point of views because I like to get the feelings of people. I want to know how the man feels. I want to know what he's thinking. I want to know I just want to know. I want to know. I'm nosy. That's it. I'm nosy. But anyway, so it's the enemies to lovers basically, or should I say enemies to lovers. Cash, so Bailey is not a reality star, she's an influencer. Something happens to where her influencing job, she's losing followers. So she kind of gets this, what do you call it, like an influencer job or something like that, where they asking her to go somewhere to post pictures about the resort and stuff like that. Only the thing is, she has to have a boyfriend, which she just broke up with her boyfriend because of a big scandal. The brother Dane says, why don't you go with Cash? Because Dane knows something that nobody else knows. And so Cash agrees to it, and they spend 1 week in Jamaica getting to know each other and understanding that they're not really enemies. And I really hated, it was kind of miscommunication, and I really did not like that. But that's okay. The story still was cute. It was something that I wanted to read to get me out of that that heaviness that I was reading in the last several books that I read. The next book that I read was Sherry Lapina's Everyone Here Is Lying. I rated it 4 stars. Really probably should be 3 stars because the ending fell extremely flat. So what ends up happening is a girl in a community goes missing. The last person to see her alive is her father. And the book was so good because it introduces a plethora of characters to the point where you're like, what the heck? Every time you flip the page, it introduces somebody new. And I'm like, I'm eating this up because I don't know, the way that it was written just kind of kept me on my toes. It kept me wanting to read it. And I did a vlog on this as well, so you can kind of see my thoughts really as I'm reading it and as I'm going along. But it's really good. So hours later, they end up declaring the little girl missing, and it kind of just some secrets start unraveling, and pretty much everyone in the town is lying. Good suspense book, but like I said, the ending kind of fell flat. Still loved how it was written. I would still recommend you read it because you may like the ending. I don't know. I'm one of those people where I just want like a real twist, and it didn't give twist. It gave maybe like something else. But yeah. So around this time, I started deciding that while I'm reading paperbacks, I'm going to read my Kindle at night because I got tired of using my night lamp. I didn't want to deal with that, and so I said I'm going to read my Kindle at night. So I read Pretend Your Mind by Lucy Score. I definitely have to verify my notes on this. This follows Harper and Luke. Harper is kind of running from a situation which I don't want to discuss in the book because, or discuss in this blog, because it's kind of relevant to the story. So she's running from something, and she meets Luke, who just lost, well not just lost, but lost his family. He was married, and I did not like Luke because I did not like the way that Luke used Harper. Like, Harper was a really good person, one of my favorite female main characters in a while, and he was just using her for sex. And even in the book, he asked her, why do you let me use you? And I'm like, and Harper was in love with him. Harper really loved him. He gave her a job, let her stay with him, and he kind of just screwed her. They do turn it around a little bit, and he realizes what he's, doing is wrong, and anything that he's feeling is internal, and that he shouldn't treat her this way. But still, Luke got on my nerves, which is usually weird because most of these book boyfriends, they're just to die for. You love them. But Luke was still protective of her, even in all the, BS that he put her through. The next book I read was Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, which follows Macy and Elliot. This is a super popular book, highly recommended by people. One of people call it a great love story. And for me, I rated it 4 stars because I would love an update on Macy and Elliot. It kind of it didn't leave how I would like it to leave, because I'm an epilogue girly. I need to see what happened in 5 years. I want to know, did they have kids? Did they fall in love? Like, I want to know. I told y'all I'm nosy. I want to know what happened to Macy and Elliot. I want to know about their wedding day. I want to know about the kids that they had. I'll read a little bit of the back so you can kind of get a synopsis of what this is. It says a dynamic love story will restore anyone's faith in love. Yeah. So Macy Sheridan, she is a pediatrics resident in the Bay Area, I believe it is. And she runs into her ex, I guess you can call him, Elliot Petropoulos. The way they met was so cute and adorable. They had this thing where they talk about their favorite words, because they're both kind of book nerds. And when she sees him, she kind of runs from him because she's like, I don't want to see him right now. I blame him for certain things that are unraveled in the book. She just did not want to deal with Elliot. And so Elliot finds her, runs after her basically out of the cafe, and they kind of start building this friendship. The whole time Macy is engaged to a man. Obviously, he ends up telling her, like, listen, I know you have residual feelings. I know you need to get some closure. So let's put a pause on our relationship and you go figure out what you need to do. and kind of follows them, and it's told in dual time period. It goes from like 12 years ago up into New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, which is really, really important. Really, really important to the story. So follow that. And then it's told in present day, obviously, of how they're forming this friendship again, and then the secrets that spill as to why she just up and disappeared one day. The next book I read was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This book was super good. It follows Amelia and Adam. They are a couple who is having struggles in their relationship, in their marriage. And they end up going to this cabin to kind of rekindle the romance, get back into being in love with one another. And what happens in that cabin, I think one of them had plans for each other and the other one had plans for each other, and it just, a third person is introduced. What happens up there is a mystery. It was full of twists and turns. It was full of surprises. I really, really loved the book. Definitely 4-star rating for it. Absolutely highly recommend if you are into suspense. The next book that I read, and this was the last book, the last paperback that I read, was The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. Did not like it. It was a solid 3 stars, may even be 2 stars. I just did not like the main character, Elle Bishop. It's told in 2 time periods, but I didn't understand how the time periods connected to one another. And I really didn't understand the ending. It was so bad to the point where I had to Google, like, what the hell does the ending mean? I don't get it. It just really, really didn't do it for me. The female main character, Elle Bishop, she's married with 3 kids. She goes to this cabin since she was a little girl every summer, pond, lake, whatever you want to call it. She spends the summers there. She was a kid. She ends up meeting her real love, which is named, what is his name? Jonas. And Jonas is married now, and they're all at the cabin because that's where she met him at when she was younger. So they, in present day, they're all at the cabin, and she kind of cheats on her husband, Peter, which this is on the back of the book. The reason why her and Jonas couldn't be together was kind of just weird to me. I don't know. If you've read The Paper Palace, can you tell me your thoughts on this? Please tell me that I'm not crazy. I just did not like it. I don't even want to describe it to y'all. It's just, yeah, they say it's spellbinding and surprising. Nothing was spellbinding or surprising about this book. It was just average at best. I don't know. So the next book I read was Rhythms Blues, and I vlogged this book because it was my 100th book of the year by Kimberly Brown. It was definitely 5-star, and it follows Channing and Rhythm. The book is literally named after her, and I forgot her name. So Rhythm has this boyfriend that she moves to LA with. They went to high school together. They weren't high school sweethearts, and he is a rapper, so she moves to LA with him. She starts her practice up for physical therapy, and she's one of those like types where she doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He ends up doing some things that he has no business doing, and she has enough, like she's sick of it. So she leaves, and she ends up meeting Channing, which kind of ends up in a love triangle because Channing is a music producer. So y'all are smart enough to know how this will go. And Channing's grandmother is a patient of Rhythm's. So we kind of watch how they get to know one another. Obviously, it's some drama that happens in the book because it's a love triangle. Just a really, really cute read. I highly recommend it. I totally enjoyed it. The next book that I read was Heir to His Heart by Tatum Jones. So this follows Janae and Azriel. The female main character, Janae, I think that's how you pronounce it, she had a boyfriend that she was trying to get over, or a situationship that she was trying to get over, long story short, and she ends up on a one-night stand with a man named Azriel. She doesn't know his name because it's just a one-night stand. Met him in a club. Let's go back to the crib and do what we do and part ways. They woke up and she woke up before him and ended up leaving. Like, she never was able to get the digits or any, like, she just knows nothing about him. Well, she ends up pregnant, and obviously, come to find out, it's not the boyfriend's, so it had to be the one night stand. This is all on the back of the book. I'm not spoiling anything. So she sees her baby dad, or the one night stand guy, on TV one day, and the way that he was like mad at her, even though he shouldn't have been because it was a one night stand, they didn't know each other, the way that he was mad at her about him missing a couple years of his daughter's life was so cute, because he showed up as a father. He really showed up and wanted to be a father, and was really, really mad at her that she didn't know who he was, and he didn't know, like, it was crazy. Like, but yeah, so it's really, really cute. I highly recommend this book. I think I rated it 4 stars. Yeah. The ending did feel rushed. I think I said that already, but it was super good in between. I love how, like I said, how he turned out to be a loving father. Obviously, I love a surprise pregnancy trope. So everything was just really, really good to me. The next book I read was Somebody's Forever by Robbie Renee, which was the sequel. It's only 131 pages to Somebody's Wife. So basically, it picks up of the aftermath and everything that Gemma's family and her daughter are going through from the divorce, because everybody is impacted from this divorce. And she's kind of fighting, dealing with her family's feelings, trying to deal with her feelings, and then deal with Zeke's, because Zeke is like, listen, I'm not going to be your little secret. I want to love you out loud. Book boyfriend. And he's like, I want to love you out loud. I want to show people that you're my woman. And Gemma was just kind of playing with him. Sometimes you got to put yourself first. Like, her child was grown. Her child is 20 years old. She'll get over it that her parents are divorced. I don't know. Like, it just got on my nerves. But, so that's what this is. It's a sequel to that. So if you do read the Somebody's series, read Somebody's Wife first and then Somebody's Forever, because I think it'll make much, much more sense. And the last book that I read for the month of November was Real by Kennedy Ryan. This book was amazing. Renaissance. It follows a woman who is Neva, who is one day y'all gonna learn I suck with names. But it follows Neva, and she's on Broadway, an understudy. She finally gets her big break, and this director comes to see her, and because they have like a mutual friend in common who drags him to this. And he's kind of a grumpy person. His mother passed away, so he's just kind of, he doesn't want to love, because he knows what it's like to love somebody and lose them forever. Not just have a falling out, but lose them forever. And he cast her into his documentary that he's making. Obviously, they kind of fall for each other because they have this attraction, but he has a situation where he fell for somebody before in the industry and it didn't work out well for him. So he's kind of trying to stay away from it. So they're kind of sneaking around with one another. Then they get caught, and then they just, it's really, really good. Kennedy Ryan does no wrong in my eyes. 5-star read for me. And yeah, that wraps up the month of November. It was an amazing reading month. I'm excited for December. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of holiday reads. And yeah, stick around for Vlogmas, Bookmas, whatever you want to call it. We're doing big things over here. Make sure you subscribe, like, share it with your book bestie. And I see you guys all in the next one. Lovers, childhood lovers to adult lovers. Really, really, I don't like the way this is going. I'm gonna start over.